Welcome to Gospel Lessons. I'm Kevin Prince. Today we're continuing our series on false traditions, beliefs often passed down in the church but not rooted in Scripture or the Gospel. These traditions, while sometimes harmless, can prevent a deeper understanding of doctrine. Today we will be discussing Ezra's Eagle. Joining me is Bruce Porter, a renowned scholar with degrees in ancient Near Eastern and Middle East studies, specializing in Semitic languages and religious history. Bruce has authored over 16 books and is well known for his research on the Pearl of Great Price. I first met him on a life-changing tour in 2018, which inspired this Gospel Lessons YouTube channel. Now, if you've never traveled with Bruce, I highly recommend it. He frequently speaks and guides on LDS-based cruises with Go and Do Travel. These cruises offer opportunities to connect with like-minded members and learn from speakers like Bruce. I'll be joining the Momentum 2026 cruise with him, and if you're interested, use promo code PRINCE for $100 off. All proceeds from Gospel Lessons, including sponsorships, go to charity. Let's go to my personal pet peeve for a moment. I've been pretty vocal about it, and that is the Ezras Eagle prophecy. And look, I get it. I get how people see it. I get the mapping to the U.S. presidents. I get the long feathers and the short feathers. I get it. I truly do. But, you know, I have several problems with it that have nothing to do with the prophecy itself. I mean, the fact that, yes, it's an apocryphal book. Okay. It's not mentioned anywhere else in any other scripture. Okay. I mean, we could but put that aside for a second. The reality is there are so many prophecies that still need to be fulfilled fully and properly before the second coming. And some of these prophecies are things that are going to take a while to do. I mean, some things are instant, it happens, but some of these things take a long time to do. And so it can't match up. So if you believe Ezra's Eagle, you're essentially saying, I don't believe the rest of Scripture.
Yeah.
And if you believe Scripture, then you can't believe Ezra's Eagle in the interpretation that is commonly out there right now online. You can't do both. And I'll stick with Scripture if I have to pick between the two. That's all it is. I get the math. I get it. It's brilliant. Michael B. Rush came up with it. Wonderful. I get the math. And I think it's genius how it comes up with it, but you have to throw out one or the other, in my opinion.
That's exactly right. And the thing is hindsight's 20/20. It's always easy to make a prediction that this represents this if you're looking at it historically. That hindsight's 20/20. But when the goalposts move in the future, when the goalposts are constantly moving because of what you predicted in the future, then something's wrong with it. And like you say, it's nowhere else but there in the Apocrypha. It's nowhere else. And in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. It needs to be elsewhere. And that's what when I'm looking at ancient texts, be they New Testament Apocrypha or Old Testament pseudepigrapha, when I look at ancient texts and there's a story that shows up in there, I look for that story. I look for, I don't even believe a story until I see it in 2 or 3 other places that are unrelated in time and space. Then I take it seriously. But like Ezra's Eagle or, the Gospel of Judas that was supposedly discovered, the fact that there's only one of them, the fact that it exists singularly, it goes on a back burner. It's not there because it has to be in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses for it to be established. And the scriptures, the prophecies, right now we are according to the Jewish calendar. Now, this is the Jewish calendar. This is from when Adam, according to the Jewish calendar, from when Adam was cast out of the Garden of Eden, because we don't know how long he was in there. They have a tradition of 557 years or something that was before the fall. But according to the Jewish calendar, we're in year 5785. Now, 5785 means we're still in the 6,000 years after Adam is cast out. And that means there's probably 200 and something years or 200 years left in the 6th seal, which I have no problem with because the events of the 6th seal that are described in the book of Revelation haven't happened yet. Now, people will say, well, they happened in the Middle Ages or they happened in Outer Mongolia, in 800 AD or something like that, or 800 BC. Well, the Lord's not going to give us signs in Scripture that are going to be lost in history when the gospel's not there. These are global. The things that prophecy is going to be understandable. The Lord even says, I'm going to tell you now so that you'll know it when it happens, so that we'll have it. And there's prophecies that have to be fulfilled, like Ezekiel talks about before the Battle of Armageddon, which is going to lead up to the second coming. He says there has to be peace in the Middle East. Israel will be dwelling safely without walls. There in I think it's chapter 37. He says they will be dwelling as a city without walls, and they'll be dwelling safely. That's why it's a surprise, because there will be total peace in the Middle East. Well, that's not happened yet.
Yeah, there's so many things like that, and this is why people get caught up. Like, the Gordon B. Hinckley quote in 2000 is one of the things I often hear about. Well, he said that that we're in the seventh seal, and we talked about that on a previous episode a little bit. But you made the point. What part of that prophecy of Joel was he talking about, right? But I'll take it in another way too. It's like there are in my studies minor fulfillments and major fulfillments of most of these last days events. And it even says it's very clearly, there will be earthquakes in diverse places, and then there is the great and final earthquake. There, and there's lots of things like that, right? Where it's like, hey, you're going to have the small things, and these are warnings, get your stuff together, get your crap together. But at the end of the day, the big one is coming. And I see much of what President Hinckley said in 2000 as saying, look, these minor things are happening, but that doesn't mean, and in my reading of what he says, he's not saying that the major event that will happen has happened, because we know those things haven't happened yet. The sun being dark and the moon turned to blood, stars falling. That event as a major event has not happened yet, as prophesied by Joel.
Well, Peter uses the same passages that President Hinckley used. Peter used it on the day of Pentecost, or at Pentecost. He uses the exact same passages, reads the exact same verses, or the same verses are quoted in the New Testament. And Peter says, this day this is fulfilled.
Right.
So there are multiple fulfillments, and the things that are talked about are going to be global. It's not going to be missed because I live. These events won't be missed because I lived on the other side of the world and didn't see the eclipse, or didn't see this event, or didn't participate in this earthquake.
I totally agree. That earthquake example is exactly right. Like when the earthquake happened and rattled Salt Lake and the trumpet fell, it's like, when the earthquake happens that is described in Revelation, it says no greater earthquake has ever hit the earth. We're not talking about losing a trumpet. We're talking about, chasms opening up. And I mean, we're talking about something that everyone will feel, everyone will know, not regionalized. It'll be massive. There's going to be, for the events that are described, there will be no mistake, in my opinion, when those are fulfilled. Yeah. We will know when they are fulfilled. And everything else is like these minor lead ups to this stuff, which we absolutely should be prepared. Yes, it's imminent, in that it's always imminent, and we always should be preparing. That's what we always should do. But we got to understand that there are absolute events that have to happen prior to Christ's return.
Right. And we sometimes we want it so bad sometimes, but it's not the preparation for the second coming temporal that's important. It's the spiritual preparation. That's, I think when people will talk to me about, well, this is going to happen in this date, on this date, and this is going to happen, I think, okay, now that if you really believe that, what are you doing different today than you did yesterday, or doing different today than you will do tomorrow? How is it changing in your life? Well, am I going to stop the earthquake if I know there's an earthquake coming? If they're prophecies, if ever Ezra's Eagle is, if that were to happen, what am I going to do that's going to make any difference at all? It still comes down to a spiritual preparation, no matter what you do. It's in Jacob, in the book of Jacob. It says these people who are listening to these alternate voices, he says, I'm going to give it to you because that's what you want. I'm going to let you fall, and I'm going to let you fall down in the mud puddle yourself, because that's what you're looking for. So I'm going to just pull back and let you have exactly what you want. So we have to be careful. You have to have a standard, and that standard is the scriptures and the prophets and the living prophets and apostles.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us today and learning about false traditions. Remember to subscribe so future episodes are easier to find. Thanks for watching.